Hello, my name is Victoria McDaniel, and I'm an admissions counselor here at Faulkner University. I'm also a recent May of 2020 grad, and today I'm here with our Great Books Honors Program. I'm here, we're going to give you a little bit more insight into the program, what it's like in this honors college, and I've got some really awesome folks here with me to give you a lot more insight into it, so I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Dr. Andrew Jacobs. I direct the Great Books program. I've been in higher education for about 20 years, and I've been helming the program for about 5+.
Awesome.
I'm Caitlin. I'm an English major at Faulkner, and I'm a junior this year.
I'm Sarah Elizabeth. I'm an English major, and I'm a senior this year.
Okay, so wonderful. These folks have been part of Great Books. As long as I've been here, I was also in the Great Books Honors Program, which was just one of the highlights of my academic career here at Faulkner. And I'm just so excited to talk about it with all of you. So I think the first thing that we should start off with is kind of the basics. So Dr. Jacobs, if you'll start us off, can you give us kind of a general overview about requirements to get into the Great Books Honors Program?
Sure. Well, it represents Faulkner's honors program. So when we're talking about honors programs, I mean, those are usually created because students want an elevated degree. They want to be challenged. They want something different than just the normal degree. And so this is the mechanism that we use to do that. And I'm really grateful that Faulkner's decided to do it the way that they've decided to do it. So what we do is we work by substitutions. A lot of honors programs, they have different methods of setting it up. Some of them are very much volume based. If they give you more than everybody else, twice as much, and you survive, there you go, that's honors. Or often what they'll do is they'll have honors programs where its parts don't really talk to each other. So you may have honors math and you may have honors English, but they never have anything to say with each other and they're not connected. We didn't want to do that. So the way that we have done it is we have a program that basically takes classes that everyone has to take and removes you from those classes and then allows you to take the Great Books courses instead. So you're not taking more classes than everybody else, you're just taking different classes than everybody else, and it allows us to give you this really interesting, very different way of learning. As far as the requirements for it, what we typically do is sort of start with test scores, but our conversation doesn't end there. Often that's just a way for us to have a conversation with you and see if you'd be the type of person who enjoys this program. If you love to learn, if you're invested in learning and you're just interested in discussing these great ideas, then you're typically someone who's really going to enjoy the program.
Right, yeah. I was a horrible test taker, but I have a passion for talking, which is one of the reasons I'm in this job. So the Great Books program fit for me really well, even though I wasn't a test taker, because discussing literature and discussing all of that, and I'm sure you guys agree as well, is just, it teaches you so much more than it does writing down on a sheet of paper A, B, C, D, E. You also get a lot more insight to yourself. So now kind of moving into that, what the program is. So can you give me a little bit of insight, like what's the course load like? What are the classes like? What is it like on the day-to-day?
Sure. The way that we arrange it, the honors program is designed to follow your degree your entire 4 years here. So there are 5 course sequences that everybody's going to take. So, and we work by substitution. So a common example might be an English or a literature class. Instead of taking that class, you'll take the Great Books program. And we have 5 courses, and they all move chronologically. So we have Great Books 1, which is our ancients. Great Books 2 deals with the medieval period and the Renaissance. And then we have Enlightenment, Romantic, the modern period, and then our spiritual classics. So you'll take all 5 of those classes, and then that will eventually prepare you to take contract courses and a thesis, which we hope will be kind of your culminating project that you do at the school.
Okay. And now there's something that we do before all of that called Great Summer. So I know that you've been involved in Great Summer. Do you want us to give us a little bit, as a student having been through it, just give us a little insight into what that is?
Yeah, that was a really cool experience. I did that in the summer of 2017, I think, and so it was basically, it counted as is a 3-hour credit?
It does count for 3 hours.
3-hour credit class that kind of lasted through the whole summer, but there was one week where all the students involved came to spend a week at Faulkner University, and we had classes, Great Books classes throughout the day. We also did activities like going to see a play at the Shakespeare Festival, and we even did an escape room and lots of other fun things like that. So it was a really cool experience, and it was really fun to get to know the other Great Books students and Dr. Jacobs and Dr. Fullman.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. And so if you're interested in, learning more about the Great Books program, that is a great avenue to do
Right.
so. So kind of moving from Great Summer into the actual classes now, can you kind of give us a breakdown of like course load, like coursework?
And Great Summer works really well because that's targeting, generally targeting high school juniors and seniors. It gives them a chance to see, oh, okay, this is what you mean by Great Books. Also lets them know Faulkner. That way, when they get into Great Books 1 and they're covering the course material, it's a little bit more familiar to them. We always say within the program, you're not working more than the other classes. Really what you're doing is you're just working very differently. And to me, it's the Great Books model itself that really ends up making it unique. So what we do, and there are book scholarships that are built into the program so that we give you these books and we allow you to do them. We pretty much do nothing the entire time except for read classical works of literature. But we want to read them in a really different way. So when we give you these books, we don't give you any sort of preparation whatsoever. We really just want you to be confused, which happens pretty easily. So don't read the introduction, don't read commentaries. It's just you and the book. Read it and get super confused. Students always say, I don't know if I'm doing this right. And I'll ask them, well, are you confused? Yes. Well, then you're probably doing it right. And so they read them and they come up with interpretive questions. And so, for instance, a common week might be, we just got done with Plato's Republic not too long back. So the first reading in class would be, you read the first 2 chapters and you have to come up with 2 interpretive questions. And that's a specific kind of question. And we train you to write those questions. And so we just do them over and over again. So you'll ask those questions. And then what will happen, my job is to not provide answers. I don't lecture. This is not a lecture-based class. The students really guide the discussion. My job is just to moderate. I just make sure that we don't go completely off the deep end or start just spending too much time on a particular question. And we just do that over and over and over again. And there are very few programs that just have this sort of training. By the time we get done, you're getting over 40 hours of training in this process that encourages you to read closely, to figure out what the book says, to form an opinion of it, but then to listen to somebody else who read the exact same passage that you did, but maybe came to a completely different interpretation. And so between the two of you, you've got to decide, okay, well, what does the text really mean? What does it say? And doing that over and over and over again, you build this tremendous ability to deal with problems, to deal with confusion. And it benefits you no matter what major you're in, because you're going to get presented with problems, you're going to figure out how to solve it. And it also just benefits you in life. You're going to read a confusing book. Well, that's okay. At some point, you're going to meet a really confusing person, and being able to discern what the book means will help you figure out what in the world is this person doing, and how can I better communicate with them and figure out how to go about this.
Yeah. So Sarah Elizabeth, why don't you give us from a student's perspective, having gone through the program and now you're working on your thesis, can you give us kind of a little bit of insight into what it was like maybe moving from Great Books 1 to all the way through Great Books 5?
Absolutely. So I didn't have the opportunity to do Great Summer, but GB1 confused me just a little bit. But I never felt like I was alone ever through that journey. Dr. Jacobs, Dr. Fullman were always like, we're here for you. Our doors are always open. Come and talk to us. But I got to experience reading these books in an entirely different way, because I've always been a book nerd my entire life. I have 2 huge bookshelves filled with books that I've read, but I've never read a book in this way. Thinking deeper about it, asking these interpretive questions, which were kind of confusing at the time, but then they trained us, like Dr. Jacobs said, on how to ask these questions, how to think about them in a deeper way. And just looking at these texts, and I would listen to somebody as they would say, well, this is what I got from it. And I was like, I didn't get that at all. So am I doing something wrong? And it's like, no, you're not. You're both getting 2 different interpretations. And it's interesting to see and to watch as you and your classmates go through this journey together. It's really awesome to think about. When I look back at it, I'm like, I've come a long way from that really scared girl in GB1 to who I am now. And it's because of Great Books. So yeah, it's awesome. It's an
Yeah.
amazing opportunity.
That's great. So, kind of thinking, I know a lot of people, typically the biggest question I get as an admissions counselor is, it seems, and we've already discussed this, it's not extra, it's fit in. So, one of the biggest questions I get is, well, how do I fit this into my major? And you're both English majors. So, it kind of seems like, well, I'm already taking all these English classes. Why would I do this if I'm already going to be doing all of that in my English classes? So why don't you tell us a little bit about how it kind of fits in? I'll let both of you kind of speak to that, because I think it's really important that everybody understands, like we've already said, this is not extra, it's just different. So Caitlin, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Yeah, I think that the Great Books program fits in really well with all my other classes. It almost kind of works as a base for all my other English classes, just because we're reading so much literature in that class and so much classic literature that it oftentimes intertwines with the literature that we're reading in other classes. And the other English classes are usually focused on a specific thing, like literary criticism or American writers, but Great Books kind of gives you an overview of literature of all different types, like political, philosophical, creative literature, all throughout history. So it kind of gives a base for all the other English classes that I found really helpful. I constantly see myself in my English classes going back to what I've read in Great Books, and Great Books has definitely helped me a lot.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, what about you, Sarah Elizabeth?
For me, Great Books also not only helped me be a better reader, but a better writer.
Okay.
And I've seen that in like my other classes where it's like, okay, like as I'm writing my paper, I'm like, well, what would Dr. Jacobs or Dr. Fullman say about this if I was writing a Great Book style
Yeah.
paper? Like I'd pick up on little things that I'd do and I was like, wait, no, I'm not going to do that because Dr. Fullman said not to do that in my last paper. So it would help me out in that regards. But also, like Caitlin said, like it was amazing to me how I can tie my Great Books back to my English classes. It's really like, and it also, Great Books gives you a break from like a lecture style class, because lecture style classes sometimes can be overwhelming with the amount of information you're being given. But at Great Books, students really are the ones that are leading the discussion. I mean, Dr. Jacobs and Dr. Fullman are there to help facilitate it and keep it moving, but we're the ones discussing the ideas and the topics, and it kind of just gives you a break from having the same teacher lecture to you. Not that there's anything wrong with lecture style classes, but it just gives you that break that you
and it's
need.
it's important to have that balance between the two of them. And so, whereas in one class you might be learning to memorize, this you're reading to learn to then apply. And so, on the flip side of that coin, with what both of you have spoken about, is, what if I'm a biochemistry major and I'm science, and I feel like that doesn't really have a lot to do with reading? Dr. Jacobs, what would you tell a student that was wrestling with that?
Well, we are really benefited by the nature of the program to basically cover anything that concerns people. If it concerns the human being, if it is something that people think about, if it is something that humanity struggles with especially, then we deal with it. So you will get a wide range. You'll get poetry, you'll get drama. At times you will get philosophy. And so because we give you those different styles, and because we are so wide ranging, it touches every single degree plan. So even if you're a bio major, you're going to read Descartes, and you're going to read how he's thinking about the nature of the body and how it functions. If you're going to deal with business, if you're a business major, what are the ethics related to business practices? How does one human being treat another person? Upon what do we build our ethical system? If you're a bio major, it really doesn't matter. We cover absolutely everything. Our ultimate goal is to basically make you a better human being. So if you're a bio major, it's going to make you a better bio major. If you're a math major, it's going to make you a better math major. So there's nothing that we don't touch and attempt to improve, no matter what college you're in on the campus.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we've had a student within the last year, she was a biochemistry major or something similar to that, and she actually did her thesis on how it all connects, right?
Yeah, she was so passionate about it that what she ended up doing, because she basically is a prime example of why what we do is so important and how it helps the degrees. So she was a bio major, and she was also in GB, and she very much saw the benefit of the program. She saw what she was able to glean, and she saw what, unfortunately, those who weren't in the program didn't necessarily get. And so for her thesis, what she actually did was build a science-based great books class. So if you're going to be a science major, these are the books that you need to read. And so she read, using the training that she had, she read a ton of different science books, and she basically came up with an upper level class that all science majors should take and a lower level class that all science majors should take using the GB method. And the great thing about that particular project is not only did it meet her requirements for honors, and so she graduated with honors, but it was built in such a way, and it was built well enough that that can actually be incorporated within the science program if we wanted to. So other students can benefit from this system and then become professionals in their field with this sort of background training that's necessary.
That's so wonderful. So you mentioned the thesis, which is something I really would like to touch on. And I know both of you are actually working on completing your theses, I think is that right?
Yeah, so
Okay, there we go. So will you kind of give us a rundown of what it's like? And then I'd love for both of you to tell everybody what you're working on.
Yeah, we try, the wonderful thing about the way that we do it is we try to allow the student to gear the thesis towards his or her interest. Now you can do it in your degree. If you wanted to do it outside of your degree, you could, but ultimately we want you to focus on something that you really enjoy and that you are passionate about, because that'll help the process. You can do a traditional research-based one, or if you wanted to focus on a project, something that you're creating more in line of, say, what we were just talking about with the bio major, you can also do that. But we tailor it to your interests, and we can do it in such a way that not only do you benefit and enjoy it, but it can also potentially help you in that transition to graduate school. So we've had a number of students who knew they wanted to go to graduate school in a particular field, and so the project that we were able to create for them basically added to their resume and gave them the training. And what it's demonstrating to professional schools or graduate schools is that these students can actually do graduate level work on an undergraduate level.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And that's at the completion of the program. That is like the kind of the final step.
Right, and the hope is that you're basically working towards this the entire time.
Right.
We don't want you to finish everything and then set you free, go figure it out. We really work with you for more than a year to help you complete this.
Okay, so why don't you guys give us a little bit of insight into what your thesis is?
So yeah, my thesis is going to, since I'm an English major and I'm leaning more towards the creative side of writing, my thesis is going to be how to create good characters in literature. And so half of my thesis is going to be an essay on how to accomplish that, and the other half is going to be application with a short story and creating characters in that story. So right now I am on my second contract course, and in my contract courses I am reading a lot of literature on how to create good characters or examples of good characters in literature. And I'm going to, this semester I'm going to write about my process of developing a character, and I'm going to write 3 poems involving this character, because my contract course is in my poetry writing class.
Okay, that's so
this semester.
awesome. That's very neat. I love that. What about you, Sarah?
Okay, so my thesis is something that I'm extremely passionate about. And I've completed both of my contract courses at this point, and now I'm taking the thesis class. And I'm going to be writing about children's literature and the effect that it has on kids. I'm looking at children's literature as a genre, like the history of it and how it came to be, as like my research portion, and also what kids can learn from it, and what literature they're reading and how that plays into it. But also the bond that is created between kids and whatever adult is reading to them, whether it be a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle. And then I'm going to be doing like the creative side of it. I'm going to be writing actual children's stories with my 8-year-old niece as the main character. And we're going to talk about some really tough things and situations that kids find themselves in that oftentimes don't get talked about in children's literature. Like we're going to talk about divorce and moving and a new baby brother, because Aubrey just welcomed her new baby brother 2 months ago. So that was a total adjustment for her. The death of a parent, all that kind of stuff, because there were really a lot of catalysts that came in to creating this project. And I can't say that I thought of it all on my own, because it was Dr. Jacobs' idea for my fiction writing class. He was like, you could make Aubrey stories. So that's what I'm doing, because I'm passionate about it. and children's literature, and I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And I think it's wonderful that you both use things that you're already passionate about, that you already want to use, once you leave Faulkner, and you're using that to kind of help you pave your way into that. So I think that's super neat. And it's awesome that you have the help from the professors, from the faculty here to do that. So kind of moving into that kind of section of what I want to talk about now is, this is a little difficult. It is an honors program. It's designed to be a little bit more difficult than your normal classes. I know when I was in the program, I super leaned on all of my professors that I had, and even the other students in the program to help get me through. That bond that you create with everybody that's involved in it, because it is so raw, it's just really important. So can you think of any examples, or just give me some examples of how you've helped other people or gotten help through the program?
I would say absolutely. I actually met my current roommate in GB 1 and 2. We had the class together, and we would, after class, we'd go sit in Cafe Sienna and be like, what just happened? What did we just read? What did we just discuss? And we'd kind of talk about it together. And I know now as a veteran of all of the GB courses, I look and I'm talking to the new GBs, and I'm like, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You will get through this. Dr. Jacobs and Dr. Pullman are always there for you, no matter what. Even if you don't have to talk to them about GB, you can go and sit in their office and just be like, this is what's going on in my life, and I need help, I need guidance, I need prayer, whatever. And I had a personal situation last semester, and I went to Dr. Pullman, and I was like, I just need somebody to talk with.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat, and at the end he prayed for me. And to me, that's something totally amazing about the GB program, is that we really are Christ-centered, and we not only are our professors furthering us in education, but also in our walk with God, and it's awesome. So yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What about you, Caitlin?
Yeah, I've also had a lot of help from fellow GB students, either having them read over my papers once I was finished writing them, or having post great books discussions outside of class, just getting even more into what we discussed in class. So it's definitely in the class, since the class is based around discussion, you get to know all of the students really well throughout the semester, and you end up making a lot more friends in this class than I think you normally would in other classes. So it's definitely a community, and we definitely help each other out.
For sure. And I remember specific instances, because we both had a class, all three of us had a class together last fall in 2019, and we were using a lot of our Great Books knowledge in that class, and so it's really special to see that kind of bond go through all of the departments that we have here on campus, and you truly see it work everywhere, like you were talking about earlier. It fits in everywhere, and it's just really special. So another really fun part about Great Books is the fun traditions that we have. Kind of talking about those relationships. A lot of those relationships come from the fun traditions that we have. So do y'all just want to kind of throw some out there while we're kind of wrapping up here?
Yeah, because we really do think learning should be fun. And so given what we do and the way that we do it, there's a lot of traditions that pop up. So for instance, one of ours is we have a mortality clock.
Yeah. And
so it chimes on the hour. And when it goes off, we borrow from the medieval tradition. You need to stop and think about your death. So when the clock goes off, you have to pause, and at least just try not to giggle. And think about when you're going to die. And it sounds morbid, but it ends up becoming a lot of fun. And when you're outside the classroom and a clock goes off, you tend to want to stop and think about your death at that point too. But we also have a board. Do you want to explain the board?
Yeah. The board is interesting because we're not a lecture-based class, so our teachers aren't writing notes on the board. So we basically have this big giant whiteboard. What do we do with it? And the interesting comments that are made throughout a class can get put on the board, and they're the best of the best comments is the best way I know how to describe it. The best of the best thoughts, and there's no context put around these comments. They're just put on the board how they were said and who said them. So then other GB students come in and they're like, what in the world were you guys talking about? Really? Why is there anything about a salad on the board when you're supposed to be talking about the Aeneid or something like that? It's hilarious, and it's just, sometimes you can be like, okay, I know exactly what book they're reading because I've read them, so it's okay, I know who they're talking about now, and then other times I'm like, where were you guys going? What was the concept
Yeah.
behind this?
Yeah, the challenge for me is I have to try to explain to visitors
Yeah.
what exactly that means.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy. But I'm trying to, probably our other one is we do have fun with the safe word.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, if something is getting like too offhand or too distracting in a great books class or something that you just are thinking it's time to move on from that subject, we have a safe word that we use every semester to. That means you have to kind of like move the discussion
Yeah.
on to something
Yeah.
else.
And
I
every
can-
class has their own safe word.
Yeah, and they remember it, and I never remember it. So I'm always screaming out a safe word, and they're like, well, what is wrong with you? It's like, oh, well, that's a different section.
Yeah.
So
Well, this was so wonderful. I love getting to talk about great books. It brings back so many wonderful memories and just so many awesome things. And I have so many books that I gained from the program, which is one of my favorite parts about it. But if you've listened to this this discussion that we've been able to have and you're super interested in learning more about Faulkner and more about our Great Books Honors College, feel free to go to our website, www.faulkner.edu. We have an Apply Now tab. Go ahead, fill out that application. We would love to get that information from you. Your admissions counselor will be in touch with you soon, and we would love to start forming that relationship with you, get you in touch with Dr. Jacobs. Go on our website as well. Check out our Great Books tab. It has so much information on there, and you can see some different things that we have going on there. But thank you guys so much for being here with us today. This was wonderful, and from our admissions team to you, Soar Eagles.